Welcome back to Studio Time. My name is Roman, and today we're talking about guitars from China. Now, there are many different kinds of guitars that come out of China, and many different ways to get them. Major brands like Squier, Jackson, Epiphone, Yamaha, Ovation, Gibson, and Fender, as well as many others, all produce products in China, usually under their lower end or budget lines of guitars. However, manufacturing in China isn't limited exclusively to overseas brands. Recently, homegrown Chinese brands like NK or Tens guitars have made appearances on the global market and have been met with general praise for their high quality and good playability. These guitars that we're going to talk about today are the exceptions. The guitars we are talking about today are the cheap ones, the ones that are made quickly, usually poorly. They're the ones that are sometimes counterfeit versions of more expensive brands. I actually owned a Chinese-made counterfeit ESP Eclipse. I bought it secondhand, and honestly, I really loved it. It played very well, and after I took out some of the bad parts, the hardware and the bad pickups, put in some new stuff, it sounded pretty good. I really liked it. So I recently got this idea in my head for a project guitar, and I decided that since I was going to be modifying it, I would start with a cheap Chinese headless guitar and use that as my starting platform. So this is the one that I settled on. It is a Krait headless guitar. No, not that Krait. I'd love to be more specific, but that's all the info the seller provided. This is AliExpress that I'm on here. You may know it as Chinese Amazon, essentially. Do I recommend it? Probably not. You're better off elsewhere. But if you're in the market for cheap Chinese guitars, this is where you go. So like I said, no model name, no specifications, no info basically provided by the seller. Just the brand name and nothing else. Actually, the guitar itself doesn't even say Krait anywhere on it. So, whatever. I like the shape. I like the finish. There's just no extra fills, just the bare minimum on this thing. The only review of this particular guitar, this guy who bought one, put into words exactly what I was thinking, what I was imagining when I was looking at this. So here's the review. The guitar needed a complete teardown, rebuild, and setup. However, it is a complete set of usable parts in a finished form for the cost of a wood-ready kit. Just don't expect a fine-tuned, playable instrument out of the box. Since that was pretty much the last thing I was expecting, I waited for a holiday sale and I bought it. The postage label says that it came from Tangwu Zhen Zeng Fu Hudi Changel Wei Feng Shandong, which I believe is just north of Beijing. I ordered the guitar on November 12th with an expected arrival date of December 3rd. Obviously, it took way longer than that, and actually it's incredible that it even made it to my house, considering they didn't even put my zip code on my address. Anyway, the box arrived in incredible condition. I've ordered parts and instruments from Thomann in Germany before, and those boxes had basically been destroyed by the time I got them. This box, however, was in pretty good shape. It was entirely made of styrofoam and wrapped in packing tape. But still surprisingly sturdy. It did take me longer than I care to admit to get the guitar out. So out of the box, it looked pretty good, aside from some obvious flaws. All along the edge of the guitar are nicks, marks, and areas where the finish hadn't been applied properly. It's a good thing I don't care about the looks on this project, otherwise I might have sent it back. And well, actually, that brings up another good point about the AliExpress experience, is that unless you're willing to ship out of your own pocket an item back to China, there's really no returns on AliExpress. So after cleaning up the 8 million little styrofoam particles from the box, I was able to open the guitar up and take a closer look at the electronics. So something you see all the time with fake Chinese guitars, or with just Chinese guitars, is fake EMGs. You can tell usually just by looking at them that the plastic is not the same that EMG uses. They do have the new EMG logo, so that is one step that might trick you. But obviously, most EMGs are active, so we're going to go ahead and pop this open and see if there's a battery in there. No, no battery. So this is definitely a counterfeit set of EMGs. So further thoughts about the Krait guitar. The playability is actually pretty good, surprisingly good for a Chinese guitar. The fretwork on the actual top side of the fretboard is pretty decent. You know, it's playable. The action out of the box was not bad. The fretwork on the sides, we'll get a close-up later, along the actual edge of the fingerboard is bad, just very bad. They are kind of inset, and towards the bottom here, they are sort of Barbie, as in they kind of stick out at you and poke you a little bit. Nothing that can't be fixed, of course, but just, you know, shoddy work overall. The guitar does not stay in tune very well at all. That's either thanks to this locking kind of nut at the top is kind of bad quality, or down here these fine tuners are not fine at all. They kind of suck. Oh, and my switch tip fell off too, so I replaced it with an old Ibanez one. We'll have to glue the old one back on. So yeah, just not good craftsmanship. As you're going to hear in a second, these fake EMG pickups sound like garbage, and we're going to try to fix that in the edit. But let's get right to it. Let's see how this thing sounds. Oh, by the way, the guitar isn't grounded properly. Anyway, for this demo, I'm using my Orange Dark Terror through my Palmer cab with an SM57 and a Vintage 30 on one channel, and the Pliny Archetype plugin from Gnarl DSP on the other. So back in Logic Pro X here, I'll quickly take you through some of my thoughts and what I did in the edit. The tracks you're hearing are the finished guitar tracks with EQ and reverb. Looking at the EQ, you can tell right off the bat that there's this crazy bump at 110 Hz with other spikes at 180, 220, and 400 Hz. All the wrong places, basically. There's a crazy dip around 600 Hz and a terrible spike at 1K. So these pickups are a mess. In the EQ here, I cut everything below 130 Hz, and I gave small bumps to the low mids and high mids. And I did cut off a lot of the top end as well, not that there was really much there. I didn't get too crazy with this EQ just because I didn't really care enough about this little demo project. Again, I don't care how this guitar sounds, I'm going to be using it for something else. We'll get to that later. Other than those minor things, I just added a little bit of reverb for this mix. Alright, so conclusion time. It's not the worst guitar I've ever played, but it's definitely not the best. So why buy one of these things anyway? Well, the plan is to use it as a MIDI controller with a Fishman triple play. If you're not familiar, the triple play is an interesting piece of kit that sits under your strings and converts the electromagnetic impulses into MIDI commands. This is why I don't care what the guitar looks like or what it sounds like or even how it plays. I just need it to be functional. So maybe in time we'll do a follow-up video once I've got my hands on the triple play. We'll check out the installation process and see how well it works. Until next time, I'm Roman and I'll see you later.